Out of the trial, if he's found guilty, he faces 10 years in prison.
Hundreds of people have been detained by Thailand's army since it seized power from the government in May. Human rights groups say that they're worried because it's not clear who's being held or where. Scott Heidler spoke to one journalist in Bangkok who's just been released by the army.
Detaining people was one of the first things the military rulers did when they seized power last month. People from all walks of life, from the former prime minister to business people with political ties to academics. Journalist Pravit Rojanapruk was among them. Just before the military junta ordered him to report, he was outspoken against the coup. They kept him for 6 days.
One colonel even told us that actually we were here as a gesture of being warned, as if he used the word that we were handed a yellow card, as in the football terminology. Some of them even sort of start criticizing the coup, probably to see how we would react.
Pravit said he was well treated, and when released, he had to sign an agreement stating he would not participate in anti-coup protests. There's no official number of detainees. There are several categories, and many people are held for just a few days. A human rights group estimates that there are about 200 being held. But not knowing the exact number is part of the problem.
We would like the government to actually have a daily figures, how many people that they have been detained, how many people have they been released, on which day, and also the procedures of how do they release people. We wish to also know that they are safe, back to the family.
As these detentions continue, the junta is holding events they say is going to help bring happiness back to Thailand, like this one here at Victory Monument, the spot of one of the first and biggest anti-coup protests.
The man ruling the country, General Prayut Chan-o-cha, has said happiness is one of his top priorities. And those who support him feel that some of their fellow Thais need to be detained to move the country forward.
Those who have been detained, they have to be part of the reconciliation process. The army would not have detained them if they are not wrong.
A formal reconciliation process is in the works by the army, including the setup of centers designed to bring both sides of the deep political divide together. But what's unclear, just how that will be done and if free food and music will be enough to mend those divisions. Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera, Bangkok.
Bridget Welsh is an associate professor of political science at Singapore Management University and an expert in Southeast Asia democracy. She joins us now live from Singapore. Bridget, Thailand, a deeply divided country politically. What will it take to bridge the gap? Surely detentions is not the answer.
Well, absolutely correct. Detention is actually only deepening the polarization. And we're seeing this polarization extending to overseas movements against the coup and a lot more flash mobs around Victory Monument. There is actually intensive polarization. I think the reconciliation process cannot be something that is forced. There has to be greater incentives for people to actually join the process. And there has to be more commitment to the democratic process down the line. By extending the elections for over a year, there is a deep concern that they are not adopting any democratic practices and how they're governing.
So by sending these yellow cards, by detaining people, and we still, of course, don't know exactly how many people have been detained, what is Thailand's military government so scared of?
Well, of course, you know, it's come in through illegal means, through a coup, and it's done it in a way that is actually fundamentally, against the majority of the will of the people. And I think they're scared of the people, and they're scared of the democratic process, and so they're adopting undemocratic process to stay in power. They're also having strategies that try to increase and expand the economy, but of course these will not engender any real forward motion until there's actually more more confidence in the government. And the government currently is not seen to have the legitimacy on its own. It's using the royalty and the issue of national reconciliation as a way to get legitimacy, but in a sense it doesn't have it on its own. So I think what it's going to take, it's going to take a lot more effort on the part of the military to show that it's actually looking out for the interests of ordinary people. And these measures that they're taking in terms of questions of detention, lack of transparency, these need to be addressed in a much more robust way, and actually they need to show much more goodwill. And part of that goodwill is to show that they are not there for the long term, and they're actually trying to actually do things in a more constructive, inclusive manner. And detentions are not a step in that direction.
Bridget, good to talk to you. Many thanks indeed. Bridget Welsh in Singapore. It's been a year since whistleblower Edward Snowden